What if I told you that one single war changed the fate of the entire world? A war so devastating that more than 70 million people lost their lives. Entire cities were reduced to ashes. Powerful nations collapsed, and humanity witnessed destruction on a scale it had never seen before. This was not just a war of armies. It was a war of ideologies, of power, of survival. Families were torn apart. Children grew up in fear, and millions of innocent people became victims of decisions they never made. This was World War II. But how did it all begin? Was it the ambition of one man, or was it the result of years of tension, anger, and broken promises? To understand World War II, we must first go back in time, back to the end of the First World War. In 1919, the world was still recovering from the devastation of World War I. Leaders from victorious nations came together to create a peace agreement known as the Treaty of Versailles. On paper, it was meant to bring peace, but in reality, it created new problems. Germany was held responsible for the entire war. It was forced to give up large portions of its land. Its military was severely limited, and it was ordered to pay enormous reparations to the Allied nations. For Germany, this was not just a defeat, it was humiliation. The economy collapsed, money lost its value, people struggled to buy even basic necessities like food and clothing. Unemployment increased rapidly, families were pushed into poverty. And with poverty came anger, a deep, growing anger against both their own government and the rest of the world. People wanted change. They wanted a leader who could restore their pride, rebuild their nation, and give them hope again. And in this environment of chaos and desperation, a man rose to power. His name was Adolf Hitler. Hitler was not just a political leader. He was a powerful speaker, someone who knew how to influence emotions. He blamed Germany's suffering on the Treaty of Versailles and on certain communities, spreading dangerous and hateful ideas. Through speeches, propaganda, and strict control, he gained the support of millions. People believed in him. They believed he would make Germany strong again. And once he gained power, he began to transform the country. He rebuilt the military. Ignoring international restrictions, he created jobs through large construction projects, and he slowly turned Germany into a powerful and highly controlled state. But his ambitions did not stop there. Hitler believed that Germany needed more land, more resources, and more power, and he was willing to use force to get it. The first step in his expansion plan was Austria. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria without facing any major resistance. This move was followed by the takeover of parts of Czechoslovakia. The world watched these actions carefully, but instead of stopping him, many leaders chose a policy of appeasement. They believed that giving Hitler what he wanted would prevent another war. But this decision only made him stronger and more confident, because now he knew that no one was willing to stop him. Then came the moment that changed everything. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. This was not a slow or cautious attack. It was fast, brutal, and highly organized. Germany used a military strategy known as blitzkrieg, meaning lightning war. Tanks advanced rapidly across borders. Aircraft bombed cities and military positions. Troops followed with speed and precision. Poland was overwhelmed. Within weeks, it was defeated. This time, the world could not stay silent. Britain and France declared war on Germany, and just like that, World War II had begun. As the war spread, countries around the world began to choose sides. On one side were the Axis powers, Germany, led by Hitler, Italy, led by Benito Mussolini, and Japan, which was expanding its influence in Asia. On the other side were the Allied powers, Britain, France, and later the Soviet Union and the United States. What started as a conflict in Europe quickly turned into a global war. Battles were fought across continents, from the cities of Europe to the deserts of Africa to the islands of the Pacific. The entire world was now involved. In the early years of the war, Germany seemed unstoppable. Using blitzkrieg tactics, it quickly captured several countries. Denmark and Norway fell first, then Belgium and the Netherlands, and soon after, France. France, one of the most powerful nations in Europe, was defeated in just a few weeks. It was a shocking victory, and it left Britain standing alone against Nazi Germany in Western Europe. Hitler knew that to gain full control, he had to defeat Britain, but invading Britain was not easy. It was an island nation, protected by its navy, so instead Germany launched an air campaign. This became known as the Battle of Britain. German aircraft bombed British cities relentlessly, day after day, night after night. Bombs fell from the sky, homes were destroyed, lives were lost, families were forced to hide in shelters. But despite the destruction, the British people did not give up. They showed resilience, they showed courage, and with the help of their air force, they defended their country. In the end, Germany failed to defeat Britain. This was Hitler's first major setback, and it proved something important. Germany was not invincible. While Europe was burning in war, another power was rising in the east, Japan. For years, Japan had been expanding its empire. It wanted control over resources and territories across Asia. It had already invaded parts of China, and now it was looking toward Southeast Asia. This expansion created tension with the United States, because American interests in the region were under threat. Relations between the two nations became increasingly strained, and eventually conflict became inevitable. On December 7th, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the United States. The target was a naval base at Pearl Harbor attack in Hawaii. The attack was sudden and devastating. Warships were destroyed, aircraft were burned, thousands of soldiers lost their lives. The United States was shocked. Until this moment, it had remained mostly out of the war, but now everything changed. The very next day, the United States declared war on Japan, and soon after, Germany declared war on the United States. Now, the world's most powerful industrial nation had entered the conflict, and the war became truly global. With the United States now involved, the scale of the war increased dramatically. New resources, new armies, new strategies. Battles were now being fought on a massive scale, across land, sea, and air. The outcome of the war was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. This conflict was far from over, and soon it would reach a level of destruction the world had never seen before. As the war continued to spread across continents, the intensity of the conflict reached unimaginable levels. Armies clashed in massive battles, cities turned into battlegrounds, and millions of lives hung in the balance. But among all these events, one battle would become a major turning point in the war. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. This battle began in 1942 and quickly turned into one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. The city of Stalingrad became the center of a brutal struggle. Buildings were reduced to rubble. Factories became fortresses. Streets turned into war zones. Soldiers fought not just for victory, but for survival. The conditions were extreme: freezing temperatures, shortage of food, constant bombardment from both sides. Every inch of land was contested. Every building was fought over, and every day thousands of lives were lost. Despite the harsh conditions, the Soviet forces refused to surrender. They showed incredible resilience. They fought with determination and with the will to defend their homeland at any cost. Slowly, the momentum began to shift. German forces, once advancing rapidly, found themselves trapped, surrounded by Soviet troops, cut off from supplies, with no way out. As winter tightened its grip, their situation became desperate. In early 1943, the German army surrendered. This was a massive blow to Germany. For the first time, the seemingly unstoppable Nazi war machine had been defeated in a major battle, and from this moment, the tide of war began to turn. Following the victory at Stalingrad, the Allied forces began pushing back against Germany from multiple directions. In the east, the Soviet Union continued its advance, reclaiming lost territories. In the west, the Allies prepared for a massive invasion, an operation that would change the course of the war forever. D-Day, on June 6, 1944, Allied forces launched one of the largest military invasions in history. Thousands of ships crossed the English Channel. Tens of thousands of soldiers prepared to land on the beaches of Normandy in France. The mission was extremely dangerous. German defenses were strong. The beaches were heavily fortified. As the soldiers approached the shore, they were met with intense gunfire. Many were killed before they could even reach land. But those who survived pushed forward. Step by step, under heavy fire, they advanced. It was a moment of courage, a moment of sacrifice. After hours of intense fighting, the Allied forces successfully secured the beaches. And this marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe. From that point on, Germany was under attack from both sides, the Allies in the west and the Soviet Union in the east. The pressure was mounting, and the end of the war in Europe was drawing closer. World War II may have ended in 1945, but its impact is still felt today. If we forget history, we risk repeating it. So let us remember not just the war, but the lessons it taught us. Because the future of humanity depends on the choices we make today.